ourselves as African people, in order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter nor fail until all Black people are free and united through one God, one aim, one destiny. That is one part of it. We also need folks to know what we are all about as an organization, as a government. So we go to our Constitution and the preamble of the Constitution, which gives quite a good description of what we should be, what we ought to be, and what we are moving towards, let's say. And so let me read so that, you know, some of us, we know this out of our head, but I never try that. I may skip a few lines. So just to be sure I get it right, I'll read it. The Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League is a social, friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, constructive, and expansive society, and is founded by persons desiring to the utmost to work for the general uplift of the Negro peoples of the world. And the members pledge themselves to do all in their power to conserve the rights of their noble race and to respect the rights of all mankind, believing always in the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. The motto of the organization is one God, one aim, one destiny. Therefore, let justice be done to all mankind, realizing that if the strong oppresses the poor, the weak, confusion and discontent will ever mark the path of man. But with love, faith, and charity towards all, the reign of peace and plenty will be heralded into the world, and the generation of men shall be called blessed. And that's in a few paragraphs, the preamble of our Constitution. And I hope that gives, if you had not heard it before, or you had no idea what we were all about, that fulfills that objective of letting you know. We are the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League, and this Freedom Friday Forum of October 22nd, 2021 is here with the Division 330, the Woodson Banneker Jackson Bay Division, UNIA ACL Rehabilitating Committee 2020. So folks, let me now go to what should have been, I'll bypass that. We'll go to the panelists. The introductory remarks are not necessary at this time, since I've given you an idea of where we are. So introduction of panelists. Now, what I should say is we'll try to have this as a discussion among relatives, friends, those close by or close to us. And we have an issue in our community or an issue among the family, and we're discussing it. There's no intention here to drag out or to find out your intellect or how deep or wide it is. And what we have here are people who have been in the, let's say, the trenches, and you've worked hard, and you're still working hard to make a better place for us African people. And so I'm in introducing folks, I'm not going to try to, you folks have been doing a lot of work. And when I look at the bios, I'm saying, oh no, we can't read all this. So what I will try to do is let you folks give us an idea of who you are as far as you want to go. Is that okay with you?
That's great with me. Yes.
All right, okay. So so that's what we'll do here. So first, let me go to Sister Marion. Sister Marion, Sister Marion, I know I mean, today is a certain day, right?
It is.
Right. And in the work that you're doing, I think it's appropriate that we start with you. And you give us what's happening, what the day is about, and what you're about. In a 5-minute period, hopefully, but I'm not going to stick to time, that you give us an idea as quickly as possible, and then we get into a larger discussion. I'll do this for everybody else, okay? So that'll be fine, right? Okay. Some of you are muted, but if you're saying anything, I wouldn't hear you unless you unmute. And it's good that everybody who is not speaking is muted. So first, Sister Marion, let's hear from you.
Yes, good evening.
Good
And
evening.
thank you for this opportunity and this invitation, and greetings to our listeners and greetings to our panel that's here today. Again, my name is Marion Gray-Hopkins, and I am here today because I lost my son, Gray-Hopkins Jr., almost 22 years ago, coming up November the 22nd. But let me just step back for a minute and tell you a little bit about me. I was born in Washington, D.C., but I have been a resident in Prince George's County, Maryland, which we sometimes call it Ward 9, add on to the 8 wards in Washington, D.C. So I've been a resident of Prince George's County for over 50 years now. My career was primarily in the banking industry. I worked 38 years and left Bank of America as a senior executive of banking for the Mid-Atlantic region. Just to tell you a little bit personally about me, I have 3 children, surviving children. I actually had 4, 3 biological. I have 6 grandchildren, and I have 2 great grandchildren, and I got 1 great grand that's on the way. So I've been kind of busy. And I started my work in activism and social justice and civil liberties work when my son Gray-Hopkins Jr. was murdered by the police. Like, as I mentioned, almost 22 years ago, November the 27th will be 22 years. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, as you had mentioned, Baba, earlier, today is a very special day to us because it is the 26th year of the National Day Against Police Violence. And so there's a lot of protests, there's a lot of rallies across the country. And I honestly forgot about it, and I had accepted this invitation and would not by any means leave you hanging there. But it is a very special day. And so we want to lift up not only my son, but the many thousands of lives that have been lost by police violence over the years. On average, there's 1,100 killings every year by police violence. And so when I think about Gary and Gary's life, we're talking over 22,000 lives that have been lost. And we only hear about a few of them. Some of those will get, the media and will get that high level press. And so we think that that number is much smaller than it actually is. And so a lot of the work that I do is around police violence, but we have an organization, which I am the executive director of, which is the Coalition of Concerned Mothers. And it is an organization that is unfortunately led by Black women that have lost their children to police violence and to community violence. Our work is surrounded around working with families that have been impacted by both, working collectively and collaboratively with communities, activists, working with legislators to see what type of change we can make so that we can stop both the community violence as well as police violence. And so I'm very excited to be here this evening because I want to have this dialogue with this panel here so that we can talk, how do we work collectively and collaborative to bring those numbers down within each. There was conversation held before we got on this call, and it's like I'm almost to a sense of hopelessness. And I don't want to be there. And I also mentioned that actually sitting silent is consent to the status quo. So yeah, let's have some conversation here. Let's talk about the work that we have done, the work that we can continue to do, and the work that we want to do to bring the necessary change. And so I'll yield it back to you. I don't want to take up too much time, but that's a little bit about me, a little bit about the organization and the work that we do. But our work goes not only here in the DMV, but our work goes well beyond the board here in the United States and beyond borders as well.
Oh, thank you for that, those remarks, Sister Marion, and I welcome you.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here, and happy to have others, and we're going to have a good chat, I'm sure. And now we move over to another person who is very active in the community and is working to keep our youths or bring our youths to that positive point in the playing field, where we can all look at them and say, well, no more of this will be happening, no more of these killings, no more of these police violence. So I'll turn it over to Brother Tyrone. Just give us a little synopsis of what you do. You're muted. There you go.
All things in time.
All things in time, of course.
To God be the glory. First of all, let me thank you for the invitation to be able to be in the midst of great individuals that are making sincere commitments to transform our communities with love, prosperity, and commitment, as well as to the audience that will have the opportunity to lift the spirits that we will generate today for the greater good of good. My name is Tyrone Parker, as made mention of. I'm born, raised, and jailed in the District of Columbia, previously incarcerated at the age of 19, given a 15 to 45 years jail sentence. Also losing my son a year after coming home from Norton Reformatory. He was shot up at Crystal Skating Ring. He was he was a popular individual in regards to rapping. They called him Rapping Rodney, Fat Rodney. And he has a mirror now up on Martin Luther King Avenue, right across from Thurgood Marshall School. And his spirit casted the Alliance of Concerned Men. From his death rose the spirit of Black men coming together to be able to make a difference. We formulated the Alliance of Concerned Men with 5 brothers that went to school together, born in the District of Columbia, Eastern High School to be more precise. We came together to be able to say, that we've got to do something to be able to transform or to stop this hemorrhaging of human lives for no reason at all. We really, really hit the boots on the ground when there was a killing of a young kid up in Benton Terrace, 12 years old, snatched. They found him with 3 bullets in his head. And it just shook the city at that point in time, because at that point in time, we had never seen anything as drastic as a 12-year-old kid being snatched and killed. But it gave birth to the spirit of the Alliance with my son. And we came together and began to do the work. And I won't make it long. We began to do the work of going into the streets with love and concern and commitment, not prejudging or condemning, only being there to serve, never period, always a comma, to be able to say, we are here. During this particular time in 1991, the homicide rate in the District of Columbia was 448 individuals, 484 individuals a year was being killed. God blessed us as a community. And this is one of the things that I give hope and light to, because as a community, we were able to turn this imaging around to stop the homicides that was going on to a large degree. The numbers fell in 2012 to 88. It was a victory for the people that have been accomplished. One is too many, but to be able to come from those numbers and then be able to turn this ocean liner should have been something I felt should have been celebrated to the maximum. but it was like a ship passing in the dark. Celebration was not there. The community did not know what was occurring. And we lost the spirit of victory as a people. I think what we are doing now, we are now on the battlefields of what we're seeing on the everyday. And again, I say this, we will turn this ocean liner around. Why? Because we know what victory looks like. How would we do it? We will do it with the love and concern of the community people, as we have always done as Black people. We will not take a defeat laying down, because the fastest way in the world, and I'm not being biased, to do the most difficult thing in the world, to put a Black man beside it and walk away and watch the transformation occur. We will do it again. I won't go any further. I'll just join this rich conversation because I'm very passionate about it. I know what we can and what will happen. And I know that we have the ingredients to make it happen. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your kindness, for allowing for this servant to be of service to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Tyrone. Yes, your passion is in your voice. And you know, I mean, you've been at it for a while. And it must be very frustrating to see that we're having a situation that looks to some people as hopeless, but you're saying it as you feel it, that you're going to turn it around. We are, as a people, working together, we can turn it around. So let's have hope that that can be done.
We will.
Now, I'll turn now to Imhotep. Bob, I can hear from you now. I hope. Yes, you're not okay. Yeah, you're okay. You're not muted. So okay, Bob Imhotep. He's not here.
Yes, sir, Baba. I'm here.
You're not hearing.
Love you, brother. Love you.
Baba Imhotep. Fatiu.
Yeah. Peace, Baba. Good evening to all the guest participants.
Yeah.
You're breaking up real bad on you, and I can't make out what you're saying, Baba. I don't know if you're telling me to come in or not. He must have lost his signal.
Go ahead forward, Imhotep. Go ahead forward, brother. He was telling you to go ahead forward.
Okay. So yeah, at first and foremost, I want to just thank, the UNIA for inviting me out to be a part of the panel. And I want to give thanks and blessings and praise to everyone that's here tonight that's a part of this discussion. For a brief introduction about myself. So I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, born and raised in Baltimore. Been working in the capacity of liberating our people since about 1993, 92, 93. My principal concern is the total liberation of African people. And how do I think that can happen? Some of the ways in which I think it can happen, if we as a people come to better understand who we are as a people, if we as a people find common points where we can connect and collaborate, and if we as a people go back and take our communities back. I believe that I'm of the opinion that men should be visible in their community. I'm of the opinion that when men are not visible in the community, then the boys run amok in that community. So a lot of the things that we are witnessing are largely due to the fact that a lot of men are just not available. And that's the truth. They may not like it when I say it. They get mad. They shift the buck around and they say a lot of things, but at the end of the day, what I know is this. I know boys do not get out of line with men. That's what I do know. I know when men stand up, when men assert themselves, when men speak their truth, boys get in line. And so whenever you have boys running amok, destroying things, I can guarantee you it's because men are not available. So that's my position, and that's the position that I bring. And I'm going to tell you why I know that. Because I was one of those boys. See, I was one of those boys. In 1989, I got shot. I got a bullet on my spinal cord. I was paralyzed. So I was one of those guns. I used to carry guns. I ran amok in the community. I've been to prison 2 times. My last time in prison, I've done 13 years and 9 months. And I'm going to tell you why I was in those streets, because no man stood up and said, don't do this, didn't check us. Allowed us to run amok in those neighborhoods and those communities and tear those communities down. Stood by, you know, and watched football games and done all of that stuff. You know, we don't got time watching football games and doing all that when we out here killing ourselves. So that's why I say the things that I say. I stand behind it, and I'm going to take it to my grave. I guarantee you, if men come together and not just walk in the community, it's okay to walk. But if men come together and directly engage in that community, we can transform it. I mean, at this stage, we got to do it block, block, block. One block at a time. So I'll reserve the rest of what I have to say for the discussion.
Okay, I don't know whether Baba Mosi has got reconnected. This is Baba Senghor. Thank you, Imhotep. Thank you all. And now we want to go to our next presenter, Sister Nubia. Nubia Kai, could you come on and share some opening remarks, please?
You have to unmute, Nubia.
All right. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Yes. Well, because coming behind the illustrious panelists that you have, I feel kind of, you know, like, oh, man, how do I follow this? And I wondered, did you just want me to say something about my background? But I see that people kind of gave an introduction to the kind of work that they're doing. Right now, I'm still a member of the Republic of New Africa. I was formerly a member of the New African Network in defense of political prisoners and prisoners of war. So I was working closely with political prisoners. And even prior to that, with other men who are incarcerated who did not go in as political prisoners, but who were kind of self-rehabilitated and became politicized while they were in prisons. I'm also currently working, currently a member of ASALA, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And I've probably been most active with the organization called the DC Metro Coalition in defense of the Cuban Revolution, in which we recruit people to go to Cuba to see the kind of remarkable work and turnarounds that you can see in a country like Cuba that had the revolution in 1959. This was also a country where you had a very high crime rate, high murder rate, violence, illiteracy, poverty. But what changed Cuba was the Cuban Revolution. And it kind of goes into what Frantz Fanon was talking about. And some people may say, I could say I'm a Fanonite, because Fanon very creatively talked about the causes of violence, especially violence within communities of color, within colonized communities. And of course, we understand, I think we all understand that the Black youth today are part of a colonized people. In fact, we as Black people are really still a colonized people within the United States. But we went from a state of enslavement to a state of colonization under the name of sharecropping and Jim Crow. But we still are not a people who have self-determination and sovereignty. I think the way to really wipe out crime is we have to gain some type of control, ideally a revolution. But if we can't do that, I think the work that the sister Hopkins and brother Tyrone Parker and Baba Fatiu, the work of the Brothers of the Nation of Islam that we're doing in drug communities, and a number of other organizations who have done tremendous work in mitigating against the violence in the Black community. So I guess that's all I have to say, I guess, for now, and then maybe I'll go into more detail later.
Well, thank you, Sister Nubia.
Thank
Okay,
you,
Baba,
my-
are you back with us?
Yes,
You
I'm back.
Back with us, Baba Moses?
Yes, I'm back.
All right.
Maybe, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Nubia. Now, you know, we've got a distinguished panel, as you said here, indeed, because, you know, you don't have to be distinguished, as some people, you know, coming from the other side, put you up and say you are distinguished. We do that for ourselves. We have to, as you know, Garvey had said that, Marcus Garvey said, you know, we have to bring our own people up. We have to make our own heroes. We don't want anybody else to make our heroes. So in this case, you have been working in the community. You have been doing your best to uplift our people. And that's a great thing. Now, Sister Marion, we can move a little further with what you have discussed earlier or mentioned earlier, in the sense of the matter of police violence in our community, police violence. What can we say is happening now that is mitigating this matter of police violence in the country or elsewhere? Is there something here that we can be hopeful for?
Well, I mean, being hopeful will require the work of many. We're looking at from state to state, municipality per municipality, looking at the laws that are in place. We recognize that we know law enforcement goes way back. It was to keep the slaves in line. We know that the work that they do is to continue to protect property and not people. And so the way that we are doing it, and it may not be the right way, and I like what the sister said, that we will probably need to look at probably a revolution to make the changes. But the work that we are doing in the interim until we get there, that we begin to take on our own communities, policing our own. We're looking at a lot of the legislation, and we're looking at where there are opportunities to make changes. But it's going to require the many, it's going to require the people, because we know in order for change to take place, it takes all of us. And one of the things that we lack is a lot of, as was mentioned, we miss a lot of men. There's a lot of women now on the front lines, and, you know, leading these efforts to bring the legislative change that is necessary to stop them from killing our loved ones. And so we got, again, I mean, the biggest thing is trying to get people together in numbers to show up, not just talk about it and, you know, going to the marches and going to the rallies, but there's that work that has to take place behind the scenes. And that's a lot of what we're doing, digging into the laws and the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights, for example. These are the opportunities that they have to, if you will, maneuver through the system without being held accountable. And so our focus is on that. Our focus is also not just on that, but in helping the community and helping people and kind of giving them, because there is no roadmap. When you lose your loved one, there is nothing to tell you, you need to do X, Y, and Z. So the work that we're doing is assisting folks that have gone through this journey. And now the folks that are coming on, giving them, you know, information that they can use as they go through and navigate through their journey to justice or journey to healing or whatever that looks like to that individual family. That's the work that we're doing. I mean, my work goes where I'm on the board of the ACLU of Maryland. I work with I work with ACLU in DC. Amnesty International, because again, I mentioned this is not an issue that's just here within the United States in Washington, DC, in the DMV, but it's an issue that plagues this country and beyond. And so working with a lot of different organizations, working with families, because again, you know, we have organizations all over. But I think one of the critical pieces of it is that we need to come together as one people. And we lack that. Seriously, we lack that. And so the work is like, let's get together, let's unite and stand truly in solidarity to identify and not ask, but demand the changes that are necessary to be able to change this and eliminate this more than 1,100 deaths every single year by a force that we pay to serve and to protect us.
Thank you, sister. Thank you for that. You know, that's looking at the aspect of how police is policing our neighborhoods, our communities. Let me ask the question. Do you think that the respect that they don't get from the communities has to do with the respect they're not giving our community? And what is it that they do so much that is causing this disrespect? Because, you know, if we look at our young people, and not even young people, I mean, it's everybody. I'm riding in the street, I'm driving my car, even at night, so especially at night. And if a police car comes up or anything like that, I worry. It automatically comes to me. I hope it's not coming something that you know, something wrong with my car or whatever it is. You know, to me, that's like terrorism. We're living under terrorism, right? It's colonization, you know?
Absolutely.
It's sad. But how do we get to that as a united people to change this? I mean, may require us uniting with other people who may not necessarily have our well-being in mind. Yeah. So
I don't think that there is one fix for it. But it's going to require, I mean, the meeting of the minds, if you will. And I don't think that there is, in fact, enough of that. But again, there are organizations that work collaboratively and collectively to sit down to identify what those things are. I think because police officers have been protected for so long, that's why that behavior, and it's just not police, it's law enforcement. They have protections. And folks are not looking at the public safety or lack of public safety that there is by giving them those laws that protect them. And so because they have that, and because they don't have, like, for example, whistleblowers protection for law enforcement, and they have that blue wall of silence, that this continues to take effect on our people. Predominantly, we know that predominantly it's going to be people of color, that there is disproportionately the number of Black people killed to the Black population is much higher than that of our white counterparts. But I don't have the one answer that it's going to take. I know that the work that we're doing is a start until community policing goes into effect. This is what we can do in the interim.
Thank you. I'll go to Brother Tyrone. You unmute yourself, Brother Tyrone. Yes. Yeah. From what you just heard, coming from everybody on the panel, what do you think is our next step?
You know, I think this is a very rich conversation by virtue of what had been said thus far. I heard the sister make mention of Cuba in the spirit of revolution. I heard the brother make mention of men in the contents of coming together. And I heard Sister Marion make mention of what she feels need to occur. We once had opportunity to decrease the presence and the dependency of the police. And we looked at that from the perspective of Black men and women community coming together to govern their own communities. When these things begin to blow life in two, then I think that is part of this larger equation. I've seen it occur before. in different areas that we had went into to do youth and gang violence, where the youth basically was holding the community under house arrest, where elders were not coming outside. There was no prosperity because all the basic institutions had left. The family was gone by virtue of Black men being confined and massive incarcerations. The schools was gone because the teachers were not functioning. The church was no longer functioning in the community. Recreation was not there by virtue of the budget issues. So the community was disrupted. But when they saw hope, when they saw Black men that would come into these communities with opportunities to lift them up, not prejudging, not condemning, but to be able to help them elevate themselves, because everybody has a dream. Don't nobody want to be in this hellhole that we are in. But it becomes a matter, how do we connect what we have with those who are in need of it? And I will end this situation is not as bad as we think it is today. I think that there are things that are occurring that will turn this ocean liner around. But at the same time, it is up to us as a community to lift us. We cannot rely on anybody to do anything for us but us. And I know we often say that, but as you see, it can work. Right now, I think we're seeing some signs of it. We're seeing some signs of it.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to make a comment,
let me just-
Tyrone.
Sure, go right ahead, sister.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment because I think some of the conversation, and I'm really with a lot of mothers, and when we meet again, and we have other supporters and allies, it's women. So we often say, and I really truly got goosebumps when the brother talked about having more men out there, the men, because those are the boys are out there committing these crimes and this violence. We often say that. So to hear a brother, to hear a man say that's what this is going to take. And I feel, Tyrone, like you said, we can turn this around. But we often say, and women may not know, or you may not think we know, but we say, where are the men? When we're out there on the front line, it's women. Where are the men? So I thank you, brother, for bringing that up. And, and if there's something that the mothers can do to get you more men on that front line with you to drive out these boys that are committing these crimes, we're right there by your side, and we're right there standing with you to do whatever it is that we can do.
Yes, indeed. Before I go to Baba Imhotep, we speak of men, having men and coming together, bringing unity to the community, and that of course is demanding self-respect. But there's also that question of owning and controlling our economy. And if our men or our people can't provide sustenance via jobs or hope for the future of our young people, what then should our young people do? I mean, the case is this is where and why I'm dealing with the question of Marcus Garvey and the UNIA ACL, which speaks of self-reliance. So it speaks starting from, it's 100+ years ago, where Black people were in a worse position, most likely. And he started something that nobody else was thinking about. We were all looking towards white folks to maybe give us a hand, give us a helping hand. And he said, self-reliance, we can do this. Started factories, shipping lines. There was a fact, young Black women, young girls had the images of white dolls to be playing with. He created a factory to produce Black dolls for young people, to give them, self-respect. And to us, the images we have of Black people right now, I don't even know the percentage, but I know that it's very high compared to our population. being incarcerated. And what they young people that have come up and what they're seeing, it seems like, okay, incarceration is probably a phase we have to go through before we become an adult. Because so many, you're seeing so many in and out and coming out. And when you say, where are the men? Where are the men? We know where they are. But we have to provide something for those men between the ages of, what is it, 19 to 35, 18 to 35 that we heard recently. Somehow they're being snatched away and put concentrated into camps. And by that time, if they have children, they can't really raise their children in a respectful manner. Their children have to go to the jails to meet them. And all these things are happening because we do not own and control our society, our economy. And that's part of where, you know, the conversation, how do we get there? But then again, the incident here is men not being an example for young men, grown men not being an example for young men, only, I guess, in a small way. It can't only be basketball and football. It can't only be we're enslaving ourselves, and even in that sense, we're working for that man. They're enriching themselves when we're playing for them. It can't only be that. We have to be able to formulate something that will give us an economy that we can grow from. And the people who control this world are the people who are keeping us in the situation we're in. And like, you know, Mama Nubia said, it may take a revolution or it will take a revolution. How that revolution will come about is another story. But we do need that economic base from which men can work and provide and sustain families and have that will have that self-respect for our men and will not run wild in the streets. Now, Baba Imhotep, let me hear what you, from what I've said and from what others have said, continue, please.
You have one out on you. Are you calling me, Baba?
Yes, yes, I am. Yeah, yes.
Okay. All right. So thank you. Thank you. So this is what I would like to add to the conversation. The first thing I think we have to do as a people is when we talk about violence as it pertains to our people, let's not look at violence outside of the context of the United States of America. I think that if we look at ourselves and the violence that we are contending with, if we think it's something that's endemic to just us, then we're going to miss it in terms of our analysis. So the violence that we are experiencing is symptomatic of the violence that the United States of America have already heaped upon us. So any violence that we are dealing with or contending with is because of the violence that we've already been dealing with from the land that we are in. So I'd like to start there when we think about violence. And when we think about in terms of how to address our situation is truly a complex situation. And it's really going to take a multi-pronged approach. So I know the conversation tonight is about violence, but realistically, we can't address violence without addressing education. We can't address education without addressing history and culture. You can't address history and culture without addressing politics, because culture is one of the most political things that you can have. Culture is what centers a people. It's what provides their people with their direction in life. Culture becomes for the people their collective personality, if you will. That's their culture. So if we're going to talk about how to help African people, Black people, we got to look at all those things and we got to pull together some type of system or coalition that's going to allow us to address all those issues at the same time. Because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with all of that. You know, black on black violence is nothing but people that's in close proximity to one another. You know, but why are we doing those things? You know, the violence that we've already experienced. Why are we doing those things? Is it poverty, as they want us to believe? It's not just poverty, because I've been to Africa. I've seen some abject poverty in Africa, but they don't have nowhere near the homicide rate. So we can't totally attribute it all to just poverty. You know, it plays the part, no doubt, but it's the loss of consciousness. It's the loss of consciousness. It's the erosion of one's conscience. It's what allows us to destroy each other, you know, with no qualms whatsoever. It's the internal erosion. It's an internal erosion. So to turn it around, how do I know that? Because I was one of those individuals. You know, I was messed up to the core. But it wasn't until I began to replace my thinking with a thought process that was more progressive and that spoke directly to who I am as a black man, as an African person. I began to grow. So from my point of view, and I've had success at reaching some dangerous individuals. I've had a lot of success at reaching some dangerous individuals, and I reached them in prison. I reached them in the belly of the beast. Individuals who were doing 30 years for homicides already. Individuals who had no clue about life, who didn't care about life. I was able to reach these individuals and touch a part of them to help them see their own light. And now these men are pillars of the community. And I reached them when they were 17, 18, and 19. And now they're 35 and 37 and 38 with families, you know, playing a part in rearing and changing other boys. And how was that done? Not because I gave them a whole bunch of money. I didn't give them money. No, I helped them change this thing up here so they can truly see themselves, so they can begin to repair their conscience. Because the only way you can walk down the street and kill another black person is you lack conscience. The only way you can shoot and kill the womb that births our nation is there's a lack of conscience. There's an erosion of conscience. And that's what we're dealing with. So granted, yes, we got to deal with poverty, no doubt. I'm not saying that poverty, you know, get a free pass. I'm not saying that white folks get a free pass. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that the problem is complex, and we have to have a comprehensive plan to address violence. We got to address all those other things. All those things got to be addressed. We just can't address violence because what happens is that we victimize ourselves and we start thinking that it's us against our young people. And it's not that. It's not us against the young people. That's not what is happening. What has happened is that the institution that we turned our children over to, which is the schools that's supposed to develop the children, never developed the children. And we shouldn't have never turned them over to the schools in the first place. I'm only saying it because most of us sent our children to public schools. They never should have been there. The first institution is the family. We should be educating our children in our homes. Education becomes nothing but socialization. So we're not teaching our children how to be human beings. Why do we expect them to be human beings? To be a human being is not instinctual. You don't come to the world knowing how to be a human being. You come to the world with the potential to be a human being. That's the reason why when you think about the Kikongo or the Zulus, they says what? They say a person is a person because of people. See, for us, our humanity is contingent upon one another. So we say Ubuntu. It means that you are essential. It means that I must treat you very well because in turn, you're going to treat me well. So if we're not teaching that, why do we expect people to treat people well who have not been taught how to treat people well? You don't just know how to do that. And so we got to address it comprehensively, because if we don't, We're going to victimize our children. We're going to victimize our young people, and we're going to be angry. We're going to be mad at our young people. We're going to say things like this right here. Well, he knew what he was doing. No one told him to pick that gun up. No one told him to sell those drugs. We're going to use that type of reasoning, right? That's false. It's a flaw in that reasoning. It's a flaw in that reasoning. And we have to be thorough when we talk situation. You know, so I don't want to take too much time, but I did want to just put that on the floor. You know, it got to be a comprehensive approach. You know, all those areas got to be hit simultaneously because that's what we got to address essentially.
Thank you, sir. Well, we might be throwing it into the right hands now for because Mama Nubia, she's been studying. She's been a scholar of African history and African society, and she's been through, as she mentioned, some of those organizations were all about bringing African people together through that same process of Ubuntu. And so, sister or Mama Nubia, are you unmuted? Yeah. Okay.
Let me see.
Yes, it looks that way. I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, wow. I mean, this panelists are just blowing me away. This is just beautiful. Very, very, very passionate. You know, about the situation we're in. So anyway, I guess I would like to go back to Frantz Fanon and his analysis. And in my opinion, Frantz Fanon was not only a great psychiatrist, I think he was one of the greatest political theorists of the 20th century, in my opinion. No. And he very, very clearly articulated, to me, the cause of violence, which we've already kind of heard from other panelists here, that when a people are oppressed, and we are an oppressed people in the United States, when people are oppressed and they're not directing their energy in overthrowing and overcoming and resisting the oppression, then the energy, this energy that accrues from the oppression and the frustration from the oppression, automatically turns inward. It turns against itself. So you have a situation of what Fanon called auto-destruction or self-destruction on a personal level. You know, you're turning this energy against people closest to you. The person closest to you is yourself. After that, it's your spouse. After that, your children and your community. So this is why I think we have this increase or this problem of violence. I don't want to say, people say black on black is not the word to use, but violence within the Black community, because we're not directing the energy against the real forces of oppression. And to give an example of how I saw it turned around just for a minute was during the urban rebellions of the 1960s. First, I guess one of the big ones was in Watts in 65, in Detroit and Newark in 67. There were several others that were going on. And of course, in 1968, Washington, DC, after the assassination of Martin Luther King, you had these widespread urban rebellions. And during that time of the urban rebellions, what I'm learning is that the Black against Black crime went to zero. It went to zero. And I know in Detroit, after the rebellion, if you see this shift in the direction, if there were crimes committed, it was no longer against the Black community, but I guess against people who were perceived to be the enemy, right? In other words, whites who were coming in, bill collectors, insurance people, sometimes servicemen, policemen. These were the targets. And I remember the NAACP, because the Detroit News used to put out in the newspaper, you know, the racial composition of the, you know, the attacker and the victim. And you could see just going down the line every day who was being attacked, as opposed to who was being attacked before the rebellion. And the NAACP, of course, they got into it. They said, oh, well, this is discrimination. And so they stopped listing it. But again, the picture was clear of what was happening. I'm not saying that, okay, we should just go out and attack whites, but what I'm saying is people understood that, okay, the enemy is not the people that look like us. And believe it or not, the conditions in Detroit were terrible. Detroit, like Malcolm talked about up south, Detroit was up south because you had whites coming from the south, from Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, to get jobs in the automobile industry. And shortly after that, you had a number of blacks who were recruited to come up and take jobs in the auto industry. But again, the attitudes, the Ku Klux Klan type attitudes that these whites had was the same as it was in Alabama and Mississippi. But the Black community was not going for it. So there was always this high racial tension in Detroit. And I know I could not go to a park. They were attacking Black people, even Black families in the park, these racist whites. I couldn't go to the park without being saw a white man sexually trying to assault me. It was very difficult. You were constantly harassed by police, but not just police, just white people, period. After that rebellion, and a lot of happened because the whole city declined after that. But after that rebellion, we did not have to deal with that open, in-your-face white violence against Blacks, including, to some extent, the police. The police were coming after the Panthers and other nationalist and revolutionary groups. But another way in which Detroit community was able to deal with police was politically through voting. You know, we had Coleman Young, who was the mayor of Detroit for a very long time. Coleman Young had come up in the union. He was a union man. And when he was running for mayor, he didn't have support of anybody. His main platform is, we're going to get rid of this racist police force. And you probably remember the Algiers Motel incident, which was happening at the same time as the urban rebellion in Detroit. And that was what he did. He kept his word. He got rid of that racist police force. And what they did, they set up a community, a committee from the community to police the police. Instead of having the police, there was a community-based committee that dealt with all of the police abuse cases and police brutality cases. And they were able to pretty much almost completely wipe out police brutality in Detroit. Something else that I saw them did, which reminds me of what Brother Imhotep said, during, after the 67 rebellion, and I want to just give an aside about that. The 67 rebellion, which we didn't think a whole lot of, and a lot of people were like, oh yeah, these Negroes burning their own homes down, da, 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 da. But when Robert Williams, as you know, who was the first president of the Republic of New Africa, also was first president of the Revolutionary Action Movement. When he went to Vietnam and was sitting down with Ho Chi Minh, he said that Ho Chi Minh thanked him for the Detroit Rebellion, which he called urban guerrilla warfare. What we were calling Negroes burning down their homes and their communities, they were calling it urban guerrilla warfare. And he thanked him because we adopted what you were doing in Detroit in Vietnam. And that was the initiation of the Tet program, right? The Tet Offensive. And as you know, it was with the Tet Offensive that they were able to turn the war around in their favor and eventually drive the Americans out. So I'm saying it was much bigger than we thought. And as a result, Detroit has been punished ever since. Just like the Haitians in Haiti, ever since the Haitian Revolution, the European powers, American powers have punished Haiti ever since. There have been sanctions on that country ever since that revolution in 1789. Detroit has gone through the same thing. So you had this, again, this kind of the economy falling out of the bottom. And a lot of that was also because of revolutionary activity was taking place in Detroit. The Dodge Revolutionary Union movement, they started having wildcat strikes. General Baker and Ken Cockrell, the League of Revolutionary Black Workers. And this was a movement that was spreading all over the country. So the auto industry said, look, we're pulling out of here, right? But meanwhile, you start getting this crime. Detroit had the biggest murder rate for a long time until I think DC kind of replaced it. When I came to DC in '89, it had the highest murder rate. For a long time, it was Detroit. There were gangs. There was a gang called the Errol Flynns. And then there was another gang called the Black Killers. And then they had gangs named after streets. But the main one was the Errol Flynns. And these guys were notorious. They were dealing in drugs. They were dealing in burglary. They were dealing in mass burglaries. Like they go to a concert at Coburn Hall and just rob everybody. So they ended up getting kind of national attention. But what happened and what I saw the brothers do, which reminds me of what Brother Imhotep was saying, the men in the community, because these guys were young, right? They decided to get together, and it was kind of an ad hoc coming together of ministers, of journalists, of community organizers, of people from their politicians, a number of concerned men that went to these gangs, right? Went to their clubhouses and their homes, went to where they lived and got them and sat them down. I don't know what they did. They sat them down, talked to them. They started taking them out to the country, taking them out to the forest, getting them close to nature and schooling them. And I'm not saying they totally got rid of the gangs, but they did a lot to mitigate against the rampant crime. Because I mean, these guys were rioting down the streets. I think automatic weapons started coming out at that time. They would just drive down the street through neighborhoods and just shoot people at random. That's how out of control they were. But when these guys decided we're going to come together and we're going to put an end to this, and we're going to try and stop it. And they did it at great risk because many of them got shot, got beat up, got stabbed, but they went anyway. And I think it's going to take that kind of determination where you go directly to those communities. And also, I'm thinking that it's not just men that need to do this. I think that women could also play an important role. I remember when C. Dolores Tucker and Dorothy Heights were protesting the message in the gangster rap music, the misogynism and the fratricidal lyrics and on. And they were protesting, I think they were directing the protest towards the companies. And then there was a lot of kind of backlash from a lot of the gangster rappers. And I often wondered, what if they had gone directly, if C. Dolores Tucker and Dorothy Heights, the National Council of Negro Women, what if they had gone directly to these gangster rappers and sat them down and told them the history and told them the deal. And it's like, if you so bad, why don't you go get the LAPD instead of your own people? I don't know, I used to just kind of have these envision things like that. Because I remember sitting down with some of these guys, who were in the gangs and who were in the robbing and drug dealing and stuff. And I mean, they don't care they'll kill another black person in a heartbeat. But I remember one of the guys telling me that, but there are certain people that we do not mess with, that we do not try and do harm to. And even though he did not use the word karma, I think that's what he was talking about when he says certain people we don't mess with, because we know if we mess with them, our life is going to be ruined. In other words, it's going to be a curse on us that we can never get out of. And he said, it's elderly religious woman. And not only is it a thing that they're fearful, but it's also a thing like their salvation or their redemption would come from people like this, from elder spiritual women. So I think women have a major role to play. I think they could go right into these gangs as well as men and deal with them. And so that's, just all I have to say for right now. I hope I haven't taken up too much time.
Okay, Mama Nubia. Yes, thank you for that contribution. I think, Baba Congo, you have a question? Oh.
No, I just have some observation. First of all, the prison for women prison, especially Black women in prisoners, is way high. And they have a lot more problems surviving all that. And when they get out, the kids are scattered all over the place. Compared to when a man comes out, quite a few times there's a loving woman waiting for him. I go back to Neely Fuller says that we're all in prison. And when people are in prison, what they do is they kill themselves. They kill other prisoners instead of the guard because they can't get away with it, and it's hard for them to do that. So what it is our mentality is that we're in prison and we don't love each other and we don't know each other and we don't care about each other. And so therefore, if you love a chicken or dog, you don't hurt it and you protect it. What is happening in the Black community is real bad. The other thing is that Dr. Wilson said we're at war. And the bad thing is some of us don't know who the enemy is. Okay. That's some of my observation. And there's quite a few phases that we go through. There's some stress of society, and there's some stress of when there's only one parent. And in the olden days, you always had an uncle, grandma, grandfather to kind of guide the person that was one parent when one other parent is missing. Okay, so therefore, the young kid needs help learning what he needs to help culturally, academically, and everything. Quite a few people in prison, there's a high amount of people who suffer from dyslexia and other problems. Sometimes don't get diagnosed. Okay, after elementary school, they start getting disrupted. They start getting suspension, or they start to drop out of school. Okay, then things happen when they're teenagers and when they become young adults. And quite a few are men, where the men are, the men may or may not produce a child. But if they're locked up between the ages of 18 and say 40, that's when usually most fathers can instill anything with a young child that they have, but they're not around. And nowadays, the women are not around because they're getting locked up also. And then when they come out, sometimes they don't have any options. They're from this corner of DC, this corner of Baltimore, and that's when they go back. And they don't go back with any skills or anything to afford to take care of a family. And so therefore that teenager, that young adult is lost and the cycle starts over. And we have to stop that by getting independent. But also the main thing that we have to do is everything in society, the church, the this, the that, have to do things to encourage love. Love themselves. If they don't love themselves, it's easy for them to kill somebody else. If they love somebody else, if they know love, we're growing up in the 60s and 70s. Hey, brother, how are you, sister? And we said it, sometimes we meant it, but we lived it like, hey, no, that's, we gotta put, but we have to love each other. Now, the loving, I think the psychiatrist gotta find how we're gonna love ourselves so that we stop being destructive to ourselves. Because it's not me or it's not you, it's we. Everything going on.
It's interesting that you bring that up, and it just brought back memories of my son that was killed. And one of the things that he did, one of his final college essays talked very much about bringing back community. And it was entitled, It Takes a Village. And he talked about loving yourself and loving one another. And I said, even in his young age of 19, he could see what needed to happen to be able to get us back to that place that you just talked about, where we said we loved each other. I know in my household, I mean, my husband demanded that every day we were telling each other we love each other, and the kids would tell each other they loved each other, and just the hugging and all, and you know, and everything. We don't have that, and I don't know, and I'm interested to hear from others as we go around. How do we get that back?
Baba Most.
Yes.
Yeah, greetings, everybody, and thank you,
Yeah, I see your hand up. Okay.
all the panelists. I think a lot of us, yeah, well, you know, y'all, first of all, apologies for being in the dark. I'm out in the vehicle. But let me just add to some of the things that I've heard, because a lot of what's been shared is not only talking about the problem, it's talking about solutions, not only solutions that we need to do now, solutions that we did at one time. And I think what Baba Imhotep said is so important. We can't separate out the violence that's taking place within our communities against ourselves from the violent country that we live in, the violent incarceration, the violent education, the violent social services. Everything is based around violence in America. To the panelists is that this discussion is very important. Not only the UNIA, not only the RNA, not only all the progressive groups that are out here, we need to consolidate those of us that are conscious, so we show a conscious collective movement to the general population. I think that's the part that has to happen, because once we do that, we close our ranks, we gain more resources, we learn from each other, and we have more numbers to go out and address the issue. And in closing, yes, we have to police our communities, but we have to be very realistic. Many of us have gone out to do that kind of work without being armed, without being paid. If we tie the economic piece in it, and I'll say, and I'll close on this piece, if we really serious, brothers and sisters, we have to take back our communities and be prepared to face violence and protect ourselves and pay those brothers and sisters, I say brothers and sisters, that are willing to go out there and, if necessary, legally arm ourselves. Let me explain myself real quick, because I'm not talking about the revolution that has to come, because that has to come too. But what I am saying is, many of our Black people are armed and working security jobs and guarding buildings every day. So the conscious community has to come up with a collective economic ways and means of being able to go to the point of arming a security force that will police our communities. As my brother said, block by block. A lot of people run from that because fear is within our people. Not only young people are killing each other, we have domestic violence that's going on, but it's all produced by a violent country that we live in. We were born here violently, we were treated violently, we're still being treated violently, and we have to keep that reality in mind. So I just want to thank all the panelists for being here, and Baba Mosi, certainly want to thank Division 330. This is a very serious start to a very necessary discussion. And I know a lot of people are having this on their mind, but what we need to do is to stay focused. I heard many solutions. We need to stay focused on what is the solutions to the problems. And I think the main thing is that we're that have lost faith in themselves and don't know their culture and don't know how powerful our ancestral history has been. I close on that point. I just want to thank everybody, and thank you, Congo, for your remarks. We gotta keep on communicating with each other across organizational lines, across community lines, and come up with the ways and means. And I agree, Sister Nubia. We got sisters that are very, very capable of being able to protect the community as well as brothers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, let me say, Baba and hope that he has to leave in a few minutes. And so I'm going to give him the opportunity to say some final words and before we move on. We have about half an hour more. And so Baba and Imhotep, you can say some final words if you need to do that.
Yes, I would like to just thank everyone for being here tonight, and I appreciate the thoughts and the ideas that have been shared. And I agree with Mama Nubia's her historical context. I agree with Baba Sangor. We have to think about how to build. So look at it like this. So this is how I look at it. So historically, we have done a lot of what we're talking about. Like history is our guide. So when we look into history, we see we've done what we're talking about. From my point of view, to understand how we ended up where we are today, we got to think about what the opposition have done. So the opposition consistently studies us, and they've studied how we have moved, and they shift. So we're dealing with a very crafty opposition because they benefit off of our situation. And so when we're talking about this violence that we are experiencing as a people, we have to talk about it in the context of America. We can never leave America out the equation. You know, and I know that some people tend to put forth the argument, and they might say things like, well, you blaming this or you blaming that. You know, that's a European argument. You know what I'm saying? Because I give an example. I walk with a limp because I have partial paralysis in my right foot. But the partial paralysis is because I was shot by this individual in 1989. So anytime I talk about my situation, I would have to talk about the person that caused that. You know, I understand that I had to live with it. I understand that I had to figure out how to get things done for myself. I'm clear about that. But I'm not going to leave that person out the equation who caused the problem. And I think a lot of times that's what we tend to do. We tend to use a lot of their thinking and we use it against ourselves and it hurt us. So the violence that we're dealing with is the violence of the United States of America. So whatever that violence is linked in that situation. Now, how do we address it? We address it a number of ways. I think Baba Sangor was correct and Mama Nubia was correct. At the end of the day, we really can't correct this mess in the midst of this mess. It really has to be, ideally speaking, it really got to be something drastic that got to take place. If we serious, if we truly look at that history, you know, we can't talk our way out this. We can't reform this. None that can really change it, realistically speaking. Right? It's going to really take some bold stuff. It's going to take some bold stuff. If we look at history the correct way, we'll see that any other people that have been confronted with anything similar to this, look at what it took. Even Frantz Fanon, because his analysis largely comes out of the Algerian situation. Even Frantz Fanon, when he was talking about what he said, he said what? He said violence is what? It's like a catharsis. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, it was a release. Yeah. You know, that's what he was saying. He was saying that, you know, this frustration was so pent up inside of them that it was releasing it upon themselves. But once they found the true target and began to release it, that's when they began to get sane. That's when their sanity began to return to them, when that stuff inside them was released upon the proper target. That's the same for us. No different. That's the reason why during the times of the 60s, we saw the zero crime rate and things like that. That's the reason why that took place like that. It took place because in those instances, regardless of what the Europeans call it, but in those instances, something healthy is happening for Black people. Something healthy is happening for Black people when we are able to release the frustration, the anger, when those things are able to be released upon the proper target, we are acting in our right state of mind. See, insanity, I don't define insanity like most people define it. You know, they say insanity is when you do the same thing over and over, expecting the same result. I define it this way: to consistently work against your best interest. And anytime we have violence that's taking place amongst us, and we are the perpetrators in some shape, form, or fashion, that's a form of insanity that's happening with us. But we can correct that when the frustration and the anger and the aggression that's being released upon one another is released upon the proper target, right? So that's another level of a conversation that has to take place. But we got to start thinking about being bold. We got to think about being bold. We can't reform this situation in the traditional sense of what that word means, reform. We can't go in the midst of this madness, this insanity, you know. And like Baba said, we got to be prepared to meet the opposition that comes with our attempts to transform our societies. When we try to transform our communities, we're going to meet resistance. And that resistance isn't always going to come directly from the perpetrator who created the situation. Sometimes that resistance is going to come from those that look like us. And we got to ask ourselves, what are we prepared to do? What are we prepared to do in those instances? Because some would say, you know what, well, we can't be violent against our own people. Now, violence is not self-defense. Self-defense is not violence. Violence is the unwarranted execution, implementation of aggression with the intent to inflict pain, bodily pain, or harm. That's violence. The person that's trying to take your life and you defend yourself in that instance, that's not violence. That's insane. That's being smart. So this is how we got to begin to think, and we're going to address this situation. But like I said earlier, it has to be comprehensive, and we got to figure out what role we're going to play. Where you best at and you're strongest at, that's your role. Everybody may not be the one to go out in the streets, but you may know how to do something else. But those that's ready for the streets has to be ready for everything that comes with those streets if we're going to transform our community. So we'll stay there. I'm gonna end it there. I appreciate all of you. I love all of you. You know, let's stay connected. You know, and lastly, I wrote this book. I don't know if y'all can see
that
it.
book, bro.
Yeah, what's the book?
Yeah.
I want to buy it, brother.
It's called African Manhood in the 21st Century.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Can I get it?
and
Where
what
can
I'm
I get the book?
Exclusively from me. So reach out to me directly. I took it off of Amazon and I'm selling it directly. I haven't created my website yet, but in the meantime,
Okay.
you can inbox me, you can Facebook me, FaceTime me, you can, whatever you need to do to get to me, email me, and we just take it from there.
Okay, I got
You
it.
know,
All right.
So I'll leave y'all with that. Hopefully this ain't the end. Let's make this real relational. Let's not just be in the business of just coming together this one time to have this talk and we don't hear each other no more. Let's not do that. Let's truly change. And Baba Senghor said it best. He said, let's get together. And I'm with Baba Senghor. So let's really do that, y'all. Let's really, 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 really say, you know what? Let's get together. Let's do a follow-up. And let this follow-up be offline, where we can put our cell phones at the door and we can sit down and have a serious dialogue. I'm ready when y'all are ready.
All right.
Sir.
Peace and blessings.
Peace
All
and
right,
blessings, brother, man.
Grace first. Grace
Thank you.
first.
All right. Grace first.
All right.
That's
Okay.
good.
All right. Peace, my brother. Okay, folks. That's really nice for final words. Inspiring. Let it go. Let it out. And I agree with him. There is that need for us to understand who the real enemy is. Being violent with ourselves is exactly what they're trying. They put it in our heads. There's a lot of subliminal messages coming out there in song and dance and you name it in this culture.
Baba Mosi,
Yes.
Could we hear from Brother Tyrone? Because
Yeah,
Tyrone
well,
is,
that's Brother Tyrone is coming up next. But
Okay.
first,
All right.
let me get to Sister Marion. I need to ask Sister Marion a question because she didn't get to finish what she wanted to say at the time. Sister Marion, you have some experience in banking. You were an executive in banking. You know the financial situation. Where are we as a people in that part? Let's look at our banking system. How many of us? Where are our banks? Tell me something about what you think is lacking, because that's part of the problem we have as a people. You know, not being financially stable and not having a financial base from which we can stand on to say we are self-reliant. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I really appreciate you thinking that I can answer that question. But to be perfectly
Sorry, I don't want to
honest
put you in
with
the bad, but you
Okay,
saw the
I'm
ins and outs of money, so.
Yeah, that's putting me on the spot, because actually I wasn't in the banking aspect. I was in the operation side of it. So I'm not the
Okay.
right person to answer that question. I mean, I can agree that we're not where we need to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. And we need to start thinking more about generational wealth and all of that.
Exactly.
But I'm not there yet, but I'm taking away a lot of the things that I'm hearing here today of what we need to be doing to get to that place. But I'm not the one to answer that question. So I must apologize.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you in a spot, but developing generational wealth is an area where I'm very interested in, and I think that's one of our biggest problems. I mean, Garvey showed it. It's we don't have to rewrite anything when it comes to dealing with that matter. Garvey started showing us that as a people, we can stand firmly by ourselves. We can be self-reliant, as the term he used, and not have to be dependent on anybody else. We can show them that we can do this. But again, that calls for unity. That calls for bringing our people together, combining our resources, and making it happen by purchasing, let's say buildings or starting shipping lines, transportation. We can do it. I mean, we've got, is it 28 million to 30 million? Some people say 40 million. That's more people than the nation of Canada. There are more Black people in this country than the entire population of Canada. And where are we economically or financially? Nowhere. And this is deliberate. This is deliberately happening. Now, if we don't have that, how are we going to make our people have a self-respect, and our children, our youth, and they're coming up? This is hopelessness we're seeing in this violence. When Baba Imhotep said that that we're doing it among ourselves because it's a matter of releasing frustration, it is true. We're frustrated with who we are from what we're seeing, and we're doing these things to ourselves. Now, my sister, I'm sorry I put you in that position, but
no, that's okay, because I mean those are some of the things I've been talking to a Black investment banker about, because these are the things that we need to do. We need to begin to trust more of one another to be able to consolidate our funds, as a lot of other races do, and we aren't there yet. But I am prepared, and we need, as a people, need to have that conversation about how do we make that happen when we see our Asian people and our white people pulling together to make things happen. Those are things that we need to do collectively, and we have not gotten there. But I think that's where we need to be if we're going to see some of the changes and some of the transformation, as Bob just talked about.
Now, my sister, I also must tell you that our women are showing us the example, because I think I forgot her name now. That woman, she owns a bank. What's that bank called? Independence Bank. She owns a bank, and it's probably the only woman that owns her own bank, something like that. But she's showing us the way. It can be done. We can do this. We can be, we can be self-reliant, and we need to be. Our children are depending on us to show them the way. If we can't do it, I don't know. It's hopeless.
The bank is called One United.
One United? No, there's another one. One United is a women's owned bank, yes, but there's another one as well, which is a black women's owned bank. This is one woman who owns her own bank. She's the sole owner, so to speak. Now, Brother Tyrone,
Yes.
let me hear from you now.
Yes. It's been a very rich and a deep conversation that has been put on the table. And I think one of the profound things that the brother, when he left his last words, is that we continue this conversation. It's been my experience. It's been my experience that, you know, and we have been in charge of all of public housing, youth and gang initiatives in 2012 to 2016. And basically, we went into these communities, these places where these kids was killing each other. And we were able to get them to transform. A number of different places, they've been in Terrace, known as Sipper City, 640, Woodland Terrace, Highland, Lincoln, there. We went in as Black men to begin the transformation. And we have seen transformation. I've also seen what I've heard stated, where they fight each other. I remember up on, when Bennett Terrace was fighting Eastgate, they closed Eastgate down. Then Bennett Terrace began to fight each other, 5 blocks, killing one another. But only when hope came to them did they begin the transformation of sustaining hope and uplifting each other. I've seen times where one brother had killed the other brother's cousin. I've seen us being able to bring them together. I've seen times when two mothers have come together after one son has shot her son. They come together. It's got to be the element of love with a consistency. And the consistency got to be like a drop of water on a cement brick. We've got to change the culture of how our people are thinking and the things that they are doing. We started a program in Lawton Reformatory called the Concerned Fathers Program, where a man's responsibility was not relinquished upon confinement, and worked with those brothers, took those brothers' children into the prison facilities, and they worked with them, and they saw the detriment of being incarcerated. And the children told their fathers the impact of it. But when these men were released, as the brother stated, these men became the pillars of our communities. And you can look at the district right now with so many of these brothers that was in Lawton Reformatory that basically began the transformation there and the transition out here. We got to also look at what are we doing right? It's not all bad. Got to look at how do we begin to build from what is occurring. Sure, we could tear it all down, but at this point in time, we got to look at where we at. We got to go to where the people are at. We got to go to where their mentality is at, and then begin to build them, to take them to the next level. I'm involved in the program, and Marion knows the executive director. It's called Next Level Vision. Every month, it's composed of about 25 to 30 organizations that basically come together to deal with the balance. Every month, we speak out the individuals that have been killed, have homicides, whether it be by police or stabbing. Last month, the month of September, there was 22 people killed. In that 22 people, there was no juveniles that was killed. They were basically from 25 on up to 55, 60. The first month of October, the first 9 days, because I haven't got the data prior to that, there have been 9 killings. No juveniles again. Most 2 youth, 24 and 26. I say this, something is working in our community and we do not realize the impact of it. The data is also showing that they are having more killings and shootings in Northwest than they are in Southeast here recently. You ask the question, why? Those of us that have been in the street, boots on the ground, We have been organic and anecdotal in regards to what we got to do. We had no best practices or no evidence base to go by. We had only what God had given us in the spirit and the will to make the difference. I say this, that these things that are occurring there are occurring from programs that have been set up in Southeast DC, because the majority of the initiatives, whether it come from youth gang violence to kill the streets, credited messages, are programs that are basically designed to put 5 safety nets around each one of the juveniles that are confined. And we are part of those programs. We're part of the credited messages and kill the streets. There's so many great stories in the contents of a bad situation, but we do not control the narrative. And consequently, our people are taking on the perception of perception is reality. And we don't see no good. But at the same time, there are some things that's happening. And I believe that a number of these programs are being led by previously incarcerated men and women that have the compassion to work with this population and understand the depths of it. You know, a number of us that had Uzis drawn on us, that had been computers just thrown down on it, but God had blessed us with a mission. And we have taken that mission to be bold and brave, but humble. And that has been the common denominator. I know that we are beginning to turn this ocean liner around. That's my perspective that I'm seeing thus far.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother. I am happy to hear you being so hopeful, because this is what we really need at this time. We need a lot of hope.
Let me say this last thing. We was doing a session over at the office. We had about 7 individuals in there, ranging from the ages of 18 to 78. And we asked the question, how do we stop the violence? A young brother, 18, said, if we can get the OGs that's involved, that's on these street corners, know what's happening, making things happen, supporting what's happening, to become a part of the transformation in our communities. We began to create a concept called the Godfather OGs, taking it from the same perspective of Sister Data in Pennsylvania that went to the brothers in jail, taking all the youth into the jail. They heard those youth, the youth heard them elder brothers and began the transformation. It's the same thing that happened when you take, whenever man is not there, it creates this behavior. But I say this to say that there are solutions. We took this concept called the original OGs. We had 2 brothers that are really Godfather OGs. One, Earl Coleman Beta, did 46 years, create a prison, create systems inside the prison that stopped the rise, that had it to the point that no man from DC for 2.5 years would be involved in any type of gangs, riots, or anything like this. The brother did it the brothers transformed a number of brothers. Another brother by the name of Linwood Gray over in Southeast, who did 30 years. Their reputations was immaculate in a culture that respects this type of individual. But now we're utilizing their greater good to help to transform a community of balance with those like-minded people. You say, how do they connect? How they connect? We asked the brothers, were these 2 guys that got this reputation, talk to the guys that they done did 30 and 40 years with, then save some of their lives, carry the highest degree of respect and regards for them, to be able to say, this is what I want you to do. But that's one of our most recent initiatives that we have put on the table to try to do something and to build from the fatherhood culture aspect that is missing out of our community. Everything is possible for us, and ain't nothing not on the table.
Great, my brother, great. Yes, and I do believe that, our people, where we are placed when we have to do things relying on us, on ourselves, we will do it. But I guess like Malcolm X talked about all the other disadvantages, and that is having people interfering in in what we need to do to be a people, to be strong and to be self-reliant, to be independent. And so long as they are there watching us as we progress and seeing it as a challenge to their international power, they will do whatever it takes to inject the internal enemy. And so we will have them, and we always have to be looking out for them. It's a sad thing to see or hear or to know, but it's there. Our own enemies within. So we have to really be able to identify who the true enemy is, not just within, but without. And some of us think that all we have to do is vote for a certain person in a certain likeness because they're mouthing things that we like to hear. And that's going to give us the freedom that we need. But like you said, the brothers came together and they went out there and they made things work. It may not be totally sufficient, but they're showing the way. Now, I know a sister, she was a lecturer at the University of Maryland, and she did a weekend stint of teaching in the prison, some prison program. And she said to me that if she was able to get the attention of our Black men outside of the prison so that they can educate themselves and be learned so that they will be able to branch out and take care of business, it'll be a good thing. The question is, why is it only in prison? She said they pay so much attention, they learn so much, they read so much, but they have to be, it's like they have a mentality, a slave mentality. You're forced to do it that way. And we need to turn that around, I think. That's one of the things we need to turn around. The educational part of things is part of it. Brother North had spoken about educating in the home. It just can't be the home. We just, everybody in this situation, in this economic situation, a lot of the problems we have is because so many of our parents, both parents, are working, and they're working shifts. They can't pay attention to raising their kids. They're either leaving their kids into the hands of somebody who's a babysitter, or they're taking a chance and leaving them alone and going out because they got to do 2 jobs sometimes. How is it that and especially when it's a single mother, has to do 2 jobs and then leave her kids, and then may have a boyfriend and then leaving them, the boyfriend who may not have this kind of stuff that we are hearing today. It's economic in a lot of senses, and it's forced upon us. So we have to think not just of the solutions among what we say, education, blah, blah, blah. We have to think, as the sister was saying earlier, the transfer of wealth from one generation to another. We have to be able to build that. We have to have, it's about wealth, it's about economics, it's about self-reliance, so that those people who are not like us, who don't look like us, may stop saying the evil things they're saying about us. But they put a lot of things in our heads. And who is the psychologist who said the subliminal messages that come to you and you don't even know it, that turns you into that enemy of self. So again, I thank you. We've got 5 minutes left, and I would like folks, if you have last words to say, Mama Nubia, I'll give you the opportunity since you were the next coming in line. But if you want to say some last words, please go ahead, and then we'll go to everybody else if they want to do that.
Well, actually, I had a question for Tyrone Parker, and I mean, it was very, very inspiring to hear him. And when he said that he had given the prisoners hope and these youths hope, I was just wondering if he would just speak a little bit in more detail of exactly what did he tell them when he gave them hope, because right now, especially what's going on politically in this country, I see very little hope unless we do something drastic. And so I wanted to know what when he says hope, what kind of hope, what is he telling them? That you can fulfill your dreams, or the hope would be a revolution, or the hope would, because I'm feeling kind of despondent a little bit too, at least about what's going on in the country right now.
And to a large degree, most of us are. But at the same time, it's like how the African proverb, how do you eat an elephant? Eat that elephant one bite at a time. But if we have 5 ants in that room, we can eat that elephant from different points at a time. You have so many brothers that are confined that hate what is going on in our community. They hate it, but they do not have an avenue to insert their energy, their reputations, and their relationships to circumvent the violence into our community. These things have got to be tapped. We've got to tap the untapped resources that we have that's in place. We cannot just focus on one particular area and then begin to hope for elimination there. That's what we're doing. We are looking at this thing from all different directions. We're tapping the brothers. We had, like I said, we got brothers that's been in, that's got good relationships with brothers that's on the outside, on the inside. And we're telling them, you can help us to stop the violence from the inside to the outside. We can help to protect your family. We can help to protect your children. We can help to feed your baby. We got to create a new narrative. It cannot be business as usual and subscribing to that. We see what it has gotten us. So we got to begin to look at this thing from another perspective. Is our point of view. Because it can work. I've seen it work. You got strong Black men and women that hate what's going on there. And they will utilize everything they can to circumvent it. And if they have an avenue, like what I'm saying, we put together brothers that returning citizens that still have the relationships to be able to utilize the leverage. That's just part of the comment. But we also, we have a component that we call our cyber transformational mentoring program that we utilize our conflict resolution manual, where we're doing simulations with the kids saying, okay, and we're working with American University and Maryland University that has helped us to structure this particular piece. We're giving simulations to the kids, showing them if you go this direction, this will occur. If this happens, this will. We let them design their own examples in real time. And they are utilizing these things to create better culture, better ideas pertaining to how they dealing with balance. So we're moving in all the areas that God has given us the spirit to use to be able to build a platform for a greater tomorrow.
Wonderful, my brother. I have a sister all the way in Chicago who had her hands up, and she may have a question. Sister Margot, you can unmute. Yeah.
Greetings, Baba Mosey. No, I did not have my hand up. I was clapping to praise what the brother
that was a clap.
Tyrone was saying. That was a clap.
Okay.
Yes, this has been very good. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Yes. Well, we've come to that part of the evening when we have to make a close.
Okay.
I thank you all for this very spirited and inspiring too discussion on violence and how can we deal with it, how to prepare ourselves, what is to be done, in other words. And I've heard what's being done, not just what is to be done, but I've heard of what is being done, and it's inspiring. And I hope that we can come together as we wish, as we spoke, so that we can continue. We can make something develop out of this that is more effective than what is happening now. We do need to bring this matter of violence to a close, and it has to do with us respecting ourselves, living in love and unity. And I thank you all again.
Thank you so
And
much.
until we meet again, until
you.
next time.
God be the glory.
All right.
Thank you. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
our in-person meeting so we can really hash out some of these things.
Oh, yes, that's
Yes.
indeed. Yes, that's
Thank you.
indeed. So,
It's been wonderful.
Baba Congo, would you like to take us out with our motto?
Yes, anyway, thanks for everybody. And I hope you enjoyed our Friday.
Freedom Friday Forum.
Freedom Friday
Yeah.
Forum. And please keep up the work, and until we meet again, we're going to start out by saying one God,
One God,
My God,
one aim,
one
one
aim,
aim,
One aim,
one destiny.
one
One
destiny.
one
destiny.
destiny.
Peace to all.
Peace out.
Face first.
Yes,
Peace and blessings.
And red tape produce
Peace and blessings.
red tape
Yes,
produce
peace
yellow
and
tape
blessings.
for our
All right.
community.
All
Red
right.
tape produce yellow tape for our community. Red tape produce yellow tape for our community. Remember that.
All right. Great.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and
Peace
blessings.
and blessings. Peace and
Nice
blessings.
meeting everybody.
Blessings, Mama Nubia.